So inshallah we will try to finish the topic of transportation planning today. So we have already finished the 4 stages of travel demand forecasting model, which was trip generation, trip distribution, mode choice, and trip assignment. Okay, so in the last stage we use the shortest path method to assign the trips, and we assume that whichever is the shortest path, all trips will be assigned to that path. All trips between two zones will be assigned to the path which is the shortest one between the two zones. Okay, so we said if 1 to 2 is the shortest path, and from zone 1 to 2 is are 30 trips, so all 30 trips will go from this path. Okay, and if 1 to 3 link is the shortest path for going from zone 1 to zone 3, and then going from zone 1 to zone 6, and then going from zone 1 to zone 8, zone 1 to zone 9, and zone 1 to zone 10, then all trips between these zones will come on link 1 to 3. Okay, and this is the desired line diagram. Okay, so you can see when we are doing trip assignment, we are just considering the internal trips. And see here, in the previous table we did not consider zone 11, 12, 13 and 14, because as I said earlier, for these zones we don't have the highways, we don't have the roads, so we are assigning the trips to the highways which are within the study area, Okay, again the thickness of these lines are according to the number of trips. The number of trips are higher, that means you will have thicker lines, and number of trips on this highway is lower, than that means you have thinner lines. Okay, and these highways are basically the links which I showed you. Okay, and I think I will earlier explained that these are only the main highways, the arterials. Okay, smaller categories, the lower categories of highways are not considered at this stage. We are at the planning stage. Okay, now let us discuss some other concepts here. First of all, the capacity constrained assignments. The problem with shortest path method is you took the travel time, which was, let's say, the travel time in free flow conditions, or the average travel time on the highway, and then you did not consider the effect of the trips you are assigning to the link on the travel time. Obviously, you calculated travel time, for example, in free flow conditions. In free flow conditions, there were no trips on the highway. Okay, or you considered average conditions. In average conditions, let's say there were 100 trips on the highway, and then you added 250 trips to the highway. So obviously, when these 250 trips will be added, the travel time of the link will change. Whatever travel time you are using initially, that will change, that will increase. Okay, so you didn't take this into account. Okay, so after 200 people, the travel time changed. So maybe the remaining 50 people, for the remaining 50 people who are coming after that, this is no longer the shortest path, but that path has now increased travel time. We did not take this into account. You said just, okay, this is the initial travel time, whoever is coming will go on to this link and so on. Okay, you do not consider that. Secondly, you do not consider that your trips may go over the capacity of the link. Okay, so you are assigning 1000 trips to a link, and that link has a capacity of 700. So this is 1000 trips will no longer be on that link. Okay, so in those conditions you should consider capacity constraint assignments. Capacity constraint means while you are assigning trips, you have to do it in an iterative manner. Okay, so you assign the trips to the link, and then you recalculate the travel time using the new volume. Then okay, using the new volume, recalculate the travel time on that link. Okay, for recalculating the travel time on that link, we have certain equations. Okay, and these equations work on the relationship between travel time and volume and capacity. So volume is the trips you are assigning, capacity is the capacity of the road, and travel time is the thing which you are trying to calculate. Okay, So you can see one of those equations. This is only one of those equations. Okay, and this is known as a BPR function. Okay, and I think one of the student groups, one of my student groups is working on this type of scenario, on this type of subject, that how the travel time will change according to volume capacity. So BPR stands for what? My question is to those two students. I think both of them are here, right? Nujud and Nadine. You are here? Okay. At least one of them is here. Yeah, Nadine. BPR means what?
The Bureau of Public Roads.
Yeah. Okay. Thank God you didn't say Bahrain Public Road. Bureau of Public Roads, again, it's a US-based organization. Okay. I think so, right? From USA, right?
I'm not sure. I think so.
Anyways, so this organization has come up with this method. So T naught is the free flow travel time in free flow conditions, and TCR means the travel time in capacity restrained conditions. Okay, capacity restrained conditions. So you put the volume here after you assign the volume. After you assign the trips to your link, you put the volume over here and recalculate the travel time. Okay, so you will have the new travel time, and then you reassign your trips according to the new travel time. And obviously if you have gone over capacity, then you can only assign up to capacity. Then you have to assign the other trips, whichever is above capacity, to the other links. Okay, so you have to do it. Okay, you have to do it. So for example, this sort of a chart can be drawn using the equation which I showed you. Okay, so you keep on putting the different volumes, and you can keep on calculating different travel times, and in the end you can have a graph like this. Okay, so you can see here this graph initially is a straight line. So from 0 to 1500, let's say the travel time is not changing. It's the same value, 1500 or 1200, whatever. The travel time is not changing, then it starts changing. Okay, so let's say you assign 2000 trips to the link, then how much is the travel time with 2000 trips? So this will become the new travel time. Okay, so then you will put the new travel time on the link, and then you will see which one is the shortest path now. Okay, the PPR function can work. So you can see there is no limit to this line. This line can keep on increasing. Okay, but we know that volume should not be over capacity. So whenever volume is above capacity, you have to you have to stop there. You have to stop there. You cannot assign more trips to that link. Okay, so you will apply the capacity constraint assignment in an iterative manner, like I said. Recalculate the travel time every time you assign the trips. Recalculate the travel time, and then reassign the trips again. Okay, until you reach an equilibrium. Okay, now equilibrium means what? That the number of trips assigned to the links are no longer changing. This is equilibrium from the previous iteration to the next iteration. So when you reassign the trips, you are getting the same links for the same trips. This is equilibrium. Okay, this is known as equilibrium. So between two iterations, if there is no change, this is known as equilibrium, and then you can stop. Okay, so we discussed shortest path method. In shortest path method, we did not consider the increase in travel time or the going over the capacity. But when you consider capacity constrained trip assignment, then each time you assign the trips, you will recalculate the travel time, and you will reassign the trips according to the new travel times. Okay, and you will keep on doing the iterations until you reach an equilibrium. And equilibrium means when there are no changes in values. Okay, just a point. Some students asked me, and I told them, even when you are calibrating the OD matrix, origin destination matrix, you can stop when there are no changes in the factors, the ratios. Okay, if you feel the ratios keep on repeating themselves, the ratio between the column summation and the data and the row summation and the data, you can stop there. Okay, so even in that case, equilibrium means when between one iteration and the other iteration, the factors and ratios are not changing. Okay, same thing here. Okay, then we have a third type of traffic assignment, which is known as dynamic traffic assignment. Dynamic traffic assignment is more reliable, more accurate, okay, because it does not rely on any equation. In dynamic traffic assignment, you find out the real travel time. You measure the real travel time. So you go to the field and find out the real travel time under different volume conditions. Okay. So this is the main difference between capacity constraint and dynamic. So you keep on finding out the real travel time. Okay, so you may install some sensors on the road to find out the dynamic travel time, the real travel time. Okay, and obviously you have the real travel time, and then you will. The process is the same. The process is the same. You have the real travel time with these trips now. Now you will recalculate the shortest path, and then you will reassign the trips. Okay. Or you will repredict the trips that now with this travel time, how many more trips can come on this link? Okay, how many more trips are expected to come on this link? Okay, they are dynamic traffic assignment can be applied even to planning. If you search online, you will find many studies in which they have applied dynamic traffic assignment for transportation planning studies as well. But its application started from divergent zones. Divergent zones. You know, when you are doing some construction work, when you are doing some, when there is some emergency situation on a highway, so you divert people from that highway to other highways, right? So dynamic traffic assignment models were firstly used for these purposes. Now they are, you know, their use has increased a lot. They are used even for normal transportation planning assignments as well. Okay. Now, whenever you are doing a planning study, you have to uh, focus on the scope. What is the scope of the study? Okay. So the scope of the study will depend upon for what purpose you are doing the planning study. Like I said, I have given you examples earlier. You may be doing traffic impact analysis for a facility. You may be doing you may be trying to find out the consequences of a future action which may be introducing a metro. So what is, for what purpose you are doing the planning study? What is the problem statement? Why you are doing it? Okay. Then how much geographic coverage, geographically in terms of space, how much network you have to cover? Okay, like how many miles of the uh, land area you are going to cover? What is the size of the network within that land area? Size meaning how many links you have, how many intersections you have, how many zones you have, and so on and so forth. For planning horizon means in terms of time, for how many years you want to do it. Availability of data, how much data is available to you and how much data you have to uh, gather. Okay, and then there are various other factors which we have discussed earlier, like population, car ownership, and so on and so forth. So if you are doing, for example, planning a study for a gas station, then that may be covered by a single person within a few days, because that will only have a small area and very small zones, very small network and so on. Okay, but if you are doing it for a large regional network for, let's say, next 20 years, okay, and that network is serving, let's say, millions of people, then it cannot be handled by a single person. It will need a full team. Okay, and that full team should work, that whole team should work on this task for full time. Okay, and then you may have to cover many cities. Okay, you may have to coordinate with many organizations as well. Okay, so how many people, how many resources you need depends upon the scope. Okay, so if according to the scope, you will set the timeline of your project and how many people you need. Now, good thing is we have travel demand modeling softwares as well. Even the other softwares, for example, um, um, simulation softwares like I may have mentioned earlier, Vism. Okay, so even normal simulation softwares are now coming up with some tools to do planning as well. Okay, they are softwares in which you can put OD metrics and then you can do the simulation. So these softwares are not for planning generally, but they have some tools available to use the planning data. Okay, so there are softwares available in which you can do each step of travel demand forecasting model separately. Okay, so there are softwares for trip generation, there are softwares for not even softwares, even Excel tools are there. Excel toolboxes are there. For example, for mode choice model, we have Excel toolbox. For trip generation, we have Excel sheets. IT models are provided in Excel sheets as well. Okay, same thing for OD metrics and trip assignment and so on and so forth. Okay, and then there are softwares in which you can do the full planning in one platform. Full planning, okay, for all 4 stages. Okay, what is the good thing with these software? They provide graphical interface. Okay, so you don't have to draw the desired line diagrams and OD matrices yourself. These things are automatically generated. Okay, data entry is automated. Put the Excel file directly, no problem. Okay, calculations are automated, and they have many advanced features as well. You can apply some extra calculations. You can incorporate BPR model, for example. You can incorporate more models. You can do more programming within the software to get more results. The problems in using the software, the issues which you have to encounter is you are relying on the software algorithm which may not be developed for your case. Okay, so somebody in USA, somebody in Germany and develop this software, and they put their own algorithm, their own models and equations in the software. Okay, obviously you can do some calibration, maybe change some values, but you cannot change the software itself. So you're relying on them. Okay, then with the software you have to have some people who know how to use the software. You need the resources, the money. Yeah, most important thing is the money. You buy the software to maintain the software. Okay, and these companies are very smart. Okay, they will provide you the software, but they will make sure that you are dependent upon them. So every few years you have to renew the license and so on. Then lack of scrutiny. You cannot, when you are doing things by your hand one by one, so each step you are scrutinizing it, each step you are looking at it, you are observing it, what are the changes happening from one step to the other. When you come to the software, you put 2 values, you get the final answer directly. Okay, so I put, for example, type of facility, land use and land use size, okay, and maybe the highway network, and I get directly the number of trips on each highway, the final stage. So I did not check the values which were calculating in intermediate steps. This is normally the case. Okay, with any software, if I ask you use this function in Excel, you will put the value in the cell, go to the function, and you will apply it. That's it. Okay, you will never see what happened between one step to the other. If you were doing those calculations manually, you were doing it, let's say, in step by step. So each step you are looking at your answers, you were checking your answers. Okay, so then let's check. Okay, so when you are planning using the planning softwares, you have to, as a planner, you must check the internal assumptions of the software. You should check the interim results, the intermediate results. Don't just look at the final values. Okay, and even the final estimates for each step must be checked. Okay, then we have a new type of models which are now being used more commonly now. Okay, or their use is increasing, which is activity based models. Activities based models. So we discussed TDM, right? TDM, which was travel demand forecasting model, which has 4 stages. Then we have activity based models. In travel demand forecasting models, we said the desire to travel is fixed. The number of trips are fixed. If this is the area, these many trips will be generated. Okay, this is the basis of the TDM model. Number of trips coming out of an area are fixed. Okay, but in activity based models, trips are not fixed, activities are fixed. Okay, so you said 2,000 trips are coming out of area 1. They are coming out for what purpose? What is their purpose? Why these people are coming out of area 1? Okay, so the trips are dependent upon the activities. Okay, so out of 2,000 people, let's say 1,500 were going for work and 200 were going for shopping and the 300 were going for recreation activities. So in activity based models, they'll start from the activities which are to be done by the people, not for the trips. Okay, so they are saying trips are just a means to an end. Trips are means to an end. In activity based models, trips are considered means to an end. Okay, my purpose is not to take the trip. My purpose is to perform the activity. Now you got the difference. Okay, in TDM model, our main idea was trip will happen. In activity based model, we are saying trip, the occurrence of the trip depends upon the activity, why the trip is happening. Okay, so in activity based models, we will take each activity of the individual, of the traveler, and we will predict the mode choice, the first of all trip generation, where he wants to go, how he will go there, which highway he will use, depending upon his activity. So he wants to go for shopping, for example. So which is the closest shopping mall to him, and which highway is the best to go to that shopping mall, and so on and so forth. So everything starts from the activity. Okay, so he wants to go for work. Where is his workplace? Where is his workplace? So this will be his destination. Okay, then which one is the best mode and best highway to go there, and so on. Okay, so in activity based model, travel becomes the part of the decision making model of the person. Travel is just part of it. Travel is not the main concern. The main concern is activity. Maybe for some activities he will not perform the trip. Maybe he is doing online shopping. Okay, so he is also considering these options as well, the options in which he may not have to make the trip at all. Okay, like I gave you the example, online shopping. So his activity is what? Shopping. This is his main concern. So what is the best thing he can do to perform that activity? If this is online shopping, that trip is not required. Okay, so activity based models, or let me call it the other way around, TDM models work best for mandatory trips, trips which you have to make, which are normally work trips. So TDM models work best for work trips, mandatory trips. But non-work trips, non-peak period trips, okay, which are discretionary trips, you may make it, you may not make it. Okay, the activities which are not mandatory to you to do every day, which are not routine, then activity based models work better in those conditions. Okay. Good thing about activity based models is you consider non-traditional factors, okay, which are not normally considered in travel demand forecasting model. For example, when conditions change, what will the individual respond to it? For example, in our times, corona happened, conditions have completely changed. People are no longer travel to their workplaces or to their schools and education institutes. Okay, so obviously these things cannot be considered in TDM model. Okay, where will you incorporate it? You will again go to the same process. 2,000 trips are coming from here, and this much is attracted to this zone, and trip distribution and trip mode choice and so on. But in activity based model, you say, okay, he is going for work. In corona, he does not have to go for work, so this trip is cancelled, and so on. Okay. Other factors, maybe some household member. So which household member is going for shopping? Who is responsible for shopping? Okay, so normally these are the, you will call me, you call me a racist, but these are normally, women. Okay, which is good, They do it very good. They do it, they are very good at shopping. They should do it. Okay, and you should let them do it. Provide them money, provide them time, provide them services. They do it very well. Okay, when shopping trip will happen, it will happen before work, after work. Okay, again, these things are not considered in TDM model. Okay, what other activities can be combined? See, this is so common. I'm going for shopping. Okay, I will meet a friend as well. Okay, I'm going for shopping, or I'm going for some other activity, and this is close to a mall, I'll do some shopping as well. When we are doing on campus teaching, this used to happen to all of us. You are going, okay, when you are coming back, bring this thing with you, okay. But obviously activity based models with all these things become more complex, so mainly they are done using a software, okay. And again, there are planning softwares available. Did I give you the name Sumo? Okay, Sumo is a planning software and it's freely available, believe me, freely available. The platform is quite like more complicated as compared to traffic simulation softwares, but it's free, and it has many tutorials and online platform for asking questions and so on. Okay, Sumo, Sumo, Sumo. Okay, if you're interested, go and have a look. And even the other softwares which you use for gaming, okay, you may have used earlier. Now we are into a different group of softwares, group of gaming, right, where you have to kill someone. To play the game, you have to kill someone. But earlier, they there used to be some very good softwares which are related to planning, games which were related to planning. Okay, I remember some of my colleagues used to show me that, see, my kid is doing the whole planning the whole city. He is designing the whole city. These games are still available. So these games are basically planning softwares. Planning softwares. They don't call it planning software because then nobody will use it. Okay. Again, in activity-based models, I think you must have understood that you have to consider the space and time constraints of decision as well. So a decision, if he says I will go for shopping in the morning before work, then he may go to a different place for shopping as compared to the evening. Okay, and you have to consider the time constraints as well, from where he wants to go and which is the best place for shopping for him. Okay, so these are the constraints you have to consider. Then forecasting non-motorized trips. Again, this is something which is not considered by TDM model. So we are now, with activity-based models and non-motorized models, we are discussing things which are not covered in TDM model. Obviously, we will not go in details. Okay, I'm just giving you a glimpse. This can be considered in some other course, transportation planning course, but just a glimpse about the limitations of the TDM model. So non-motorized modes are not considered. Okay, non-motorized modes including what? Like walking and biking. They are not considered in TTM model. Okay, you are just doing the mode choices between the cars and the buses and the transit and so on and so forth. Okay, they do not focus on non-motorized mode. Let me call it this way, because within the zone trips have less priority. Walking and biking will be mostly within the zone. Okay, so they have less priority. But these non-motorized modes can become important if you are doing it for downtown areas which are congested, city centers, the main areas where there are all commercial activities happening, where they have mixed land use. So you have shops on the ground floor and people are living on the on the upper floors. Okay, so in these type of areas, or university campuses, even technology campuses. So they have technology campuses. If you go to, I think, California, there's the Silicon Valley, right? There's a technology campus. Okay, even when I was in Europe, they have a campus which is for research, and people are living in that campus as well. So where people are living in enclosed environments, then non-motorized trips are a lot. Maybe 99% trips are non-motorized. People are just walking from their house to their class, from their house to their workplace, and so on. Okay. So like I gave you the example here, this is for KFUPM, King Fahd University Petroleum Minerals, the trips which are taken on campus. So if you add these two, walking and biking, they are more than, I think, 40%, right? More than 40% trips are non-motorized. So you cannot ignore them. You cannot ignore them. And the main thing about these trips is pedestrians and cyclists are sensitive to factors which are not considered in the TDM model, or which are not considered by motorists, which are not considered by motorized transporting people who are using motorized transport. Okay. For example, weather and climate. If I'm in a car, I will have less effect of weather and climate. So when we are doing on-campus teaching, you must have seen people, traffic jams in afternoon time. Imagine Bahrain, temperature going above 40, reaching 50, and everybody is on the road. Okay, because they are in the car. Okay, you will not imagine a pedestrian or cyclist to make a trip on the same time. Okay, and even we did a survey. I will just show you. We did a survey. Okay, we did a survey, and you can see these are the questions which we asked. Why you are not using the public transport? Why you're not using the public transport? You can see this. Okay, so these are the things which people consider when they have to walk or bicycle. Okay, which are not normally considered for other modes. So if you are somebody is enjoying the driving, they want privacy, they cannot wait, they cannot walk, or they don't want to walk. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, and how can we make you use buses? Okay, so then you have their responses as well. Okay, I feel that these are not important. Increase the decrease the fare, increase the facilities and so on. But you can see here, if you are walking, then you are afraid that you may get lost. It will lose your time and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are things which are considered by people who are considering other modes of transportation. Okay, so there, and if you ask anybody why don't you use public transport, he will say I cannot wait at the bus stop for even for 20 minutes in this heat. Okay, even the bus stops get very heated up. How to, so by default non-motorized modes are not part of the TDM model or not focused in a TDM model. Okay, so how we can incorporate them? While you are at the trip generation stage, okay, you can add pedestrian and bicycle trips which are taken for recreation and exercise purposes, and you can add it to the trip generation model, to the trip generation stage. Calculate the pedestrian and bicycle trips which are taken for recreation and for exercise purposes, and you can add it. Okay, for more choice, so you can incorporate them at the trip generation stage, the first stage of the model, or when you are considering mode choice. So I think I showed you the mode choice trees examples. So in those examples, you must have see this one. So when you are developing mode choice model, so we consider the non-motorized trips there as well. So you will have the probability of the percent or the percentage of people who are going by biking and walking as well. Okay, so this is another way of incorporating non-motorized trips in the TDM model. Okay, make it part of the mode choice models. Okay, but then obviously you may have to focus on one particular activity like home to work. Okay, so you will find out how many work trips are being done by bicycle, how many work trips are being done by walking and so on, because this is the main focus of the TDM model, the work trips, the traditional trips. Okay, if you don't do this, then non-motorized trips will not be part of your TDM model. The number of trips you are getting in the end are just the trips which are going on the highways. Then the last thing is forecasting freight and goods movements. Okay, again, something which is not done by TDM model. TDM model does not take into account any freight movement, any goods movement, no truck activity. Okay, but we know truck activities, the goods movement, the freight movement is important for economic activities. Okay, it is important for the national policy making and so on. Okay, within freight movement, obviously we have different modes. Okay, train is used, ships are used, APN is used, but 60% of the freight movement happens by truck normally in other countries. Okay, like but in Bahrain, 100% freight movement within Bahrain is by trucks. There is no other option. Okay, if you want to transfer your freight, your goods from one part to the other, you will have to use the truck. There is no other option for you. And trucks are also serving international movement. From where? From Bahrain to where? If I want to send something by truck internationally from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. Okay, and I think from Saudi Arabia then it can go to other countries as well, right? Saudi Arabia is linked to other countries as well, huh?
Yes.
Like Jordan and so on. So in case of trucks, it is more important than other countries. Even for Pakistan, there are other modes available, like train is available, airplanes available, but trucks are still carrying, I think, more than 80% of the freight. Okay, so freight forecasting models are standalone; they are not part of TDM. Okay, we are not discussing them, but just to tell you the limitation of the TDM model. TDM model doesn't take into account any freight movement. Okay, what are the peculiar or unique things about freight movement? First of all, freight movement covers larger geographical areas. Freight trips are normally longer. Okay, so when you are doing their planning, you have to consider the network at a coarser level. Coarser means at the aggregate level, higher level. Okay, macro level. So higher level meaning you will only consider the arterials and so on. Okay, so it may be limited to freeway and arterials and so on. Okay, so it follows the same procedure as TDM. It can follow the same procedure as TDM, but obviously the trip generation rates and everything will be according to the freight then. Okay, you cannot use the same trip generation equations and so on for freight transport. You have to have separate equations. And in that case, for freight movement, we don't have mode choice then. Mode choice decision is made when the trip is generated. So that the trader would say, I will send my freight from this area to this area using this mode, and that's it. Okay, there's no other mode choice here. This is scenario for Bahrain. Okay, and I think I already told you these are different types of trucks. Okay, so which type of freight is sent by which type of truck? Okay, so agricultural products are normally sent by heavy goods because more like larger trucks. Okay, but when you come to parcels, then it is mainly going by, or it is evenly distributed between light trucks and heavy trucks. Okay, waste mainly done by large trucks, metal alloys mainly by large trucks, and so on. Okay, so for most of the goods you can see there's a larger percentage which is going by very large trucks. Okay, for agricultural products, the share of the large trucks is less. Okay, and this is the distribution according to different terminals in Bahrain. Okay, so these you can see internationally we are mainly importing and exporting from all terminals construction materials. So construction material is the biggest import and export for Bahrain according to this. Okay, so and the main source of it is from Saudi Arabia, I think, because it is coming from or going from King Fahd Causeway. Okay, so this is the main. Sorry.
These values are accurate?
Yeah. They are from 2017, but they are from 2017. They are given from my student who is working in Ministry of Transport. Okay, she is doing masters. Okay, so I've just taken a couple of. You can see the figure number as well here. I've just taken a couple of figures from her thesis. Okay, her name is Fadwa, so I must thank her. Okay. So this is the end of transportation planning process. I think it was, theory was quite a bit here. Okay, I try to make it, try to explain it as best as I can. But I don't know whether you liked it or not. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, so the next lecture is already uploaded. Okay.